Hey everyone, yesterday marked the 49th year since Martin Luther King was assassinated right here in our city of Memphis. You can still see the site it happened at the Lorraine Motel down by G.E. Patterson in South Main, just a few blocks from the river. You can see the window where James Earl Ray looked out and shot his gun, and you can see the balcony from which King was killed. It's a day that is significant for our city, and it's a conversation that's significant in our country and in our churches as the way we think about racial tensions. 49 years ago can seem like a long time, but many of the things that King was fighting for still plague our society. Income inequality, housing, and education are just a few ways where people of color have been behind people who are white, and there's still a struggle today in the way that we interact with each other. As we think about this critically as people of faith, I just wanted to present a few resources that are more recent titles in our library that might help us all think about how to critically engage this delicate subject. The first one I'd like to look at is James Cone, The Cross and the Lynching Tree. And what Cone does in this book is says that both the lynching tree for African Americans in the 19th century and the cross, obviously as a reference to Jesus, but also Christian martyrs, is a way of understanding suffering. And Cone believes that only by truly appreciating suffering can we realize how that we can use oppression to hurt others. And by learning to empathize with people in their suffering, we'll learn also the ways that we've unfortunately oppressed others. It's worth looking at. You might also consider Jennifer Harvey, Dear White Christian. Jennifer is a white Christian herself, and she pens this book from a critical standpoint of realizing that all of the issues with racial reconciliation aren't just about saying, what are the ways that we can get along better, or what are the ways that we can learn to identify with each other, but also, what are the ways that white people can take responsibility for some of the pain that has been suffered by others. This is just like Cone. This has a specific point of view, and it's a book that really needs to be considered for the ways that we think about our own role and our own responsibility in helping everyone come to a more shared sense of equity. But perhaps a specific point of view isn't exactly what you're looking for. You might be looking for a book that just is a more historical background or a more comprehensive study, and not just from one point of view, but also tells the story. And for that, I'd recommend that there's two books that show different angles on the same story, and one of them is a really recent title that's had a great, huge, really important critical reception, and this is called The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks. And in this story, the author goes in and shows that Rosa Parks wasn't just a woman who happened to be on a bus one day and got really stubborn, but instead was a really thoughtful, intentional activist. Here's even on the back, it says this: historian Jeane Theoharis presents a powerful corrective to the popular iconography of Parks as a quiet seamstress who with a single act birthed the modern civil rights movement. Instead, she says, no, it was more than that. It was very strategic and intentional. This book has been widely acclaimed. It's appeared on many of the New York Times bestseller lists and things like this. I think you'll really appreciate the way that it tells the whole story of Parks. But another book of significance related to the Rosa Parks story is Bus Ride to Justice by Fred Gray. Some in our community of Churches of Christ will recognize Gray as being a preacher within Churches of Christ, and he was mentored by the most famous black preacher in the Restoration Movement, Marshall Keeble. Fred Gray was Rosa Parks' lawyer, and he also represented Martin Luther King and was active in the desegregation of Alabama schools. This is his memoir where he tells his story of his activity in civil rights, and I think you'll really appreciate it. It's a few years older, but we'll tell the Rosa Parks story from his perspective as her attorney. These are just a few of the titles that we have that deal with civil rights movement, with Christian engagement and racial tensions. I think many titles that we haven't mentioned here are worth reading, and we'd love to have you come and read any of them. Our library, though we are part of the School of Theology campus, is open to the public, and any of you who happen to be in Memphis or nearby can come and read whatever you would like. If you're part of a church who supports the School of Theology, you would even have checkout privileges where you could check out 3 books for up to 4 weeks with a renewal for another 4, and we'd love to have you. If you just want to come and ask reference questions, get an idea on some things that are coming out, some titles that you might find helpful, we'd love to have you anytime. Give us a call or visit our website at hst.edu/library. Thanks. We'll see you next time.